Okay, so you've all said in some really fascinating stuff for us to dig into this time.
Yeah,
And it's
definitely.
all about those external forces that are constantly at play, the things that really shape how businesses operate.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to try to really drill down into this material and pull out what's most crucial for you all to understand from all of this.
That's right. Yeah. We're going to take a close look today at how societal attitudes, behaviors, those core values, fundamental beliefs and trends
Right.
really impact the way businesses need to plan.
Yeah.
And one of the things that comes through really clearly in what you said is that these aren't fixed points.
Right.
They're dynamic. They're living aspects that influence everything from consumer choices to what your workforce expects of you as an employer.
Absolutely. And that's where I think this deep dive is going to be really valuable. Because what we want to do today is extract some really actionable insights for you.
Yeah.
We want to move beyond just describing these societal elements and really show you how they translate into real-world opportunities and, let's be honest, some pretty significant
Oh,
challenges
for sure.
for businesses out there.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll explore things like, how the growing focus on sustainability has transformed what you find on supermarket shelves.
Right.
And how the changing landscape of work-life balance is forcing a rethink of the modern workplace.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's dive right in.
Let's do it.
Let's start with societal attitudes and behaviors.
Yeah, I think that's a great place to begin.
Yeah.
Your sources indicate that societal attitudes are essentially the shared ideas, the collective values, and fundamental beliefs that are held within a society.
Hmm.
And what's really insightful is this direct connection between these internal attitudes and outward behaviors, the actions that people take that reflect what they believe.
Right.
And the really key point here is that both these attitudes and the resulting behaviors are constantly shifting.
Yeah, they're not static.
They're adapting.
Yeah.
And this has a widespread effect, shaping how we live our lives, how we engage in work, and most importantly for us today, how we make purchasing decisions and how businesses conduct themselves.
Exactly. And at the heart of all of this, driving these attitudes are our values and beliefs.
Yeah.
And, you can think of them as a society's shared moral compass.
Mm-hmm.
Those deeply held principles that define what's considered right or wrong, important or not.
Right.
And we're not born with these, they're learned, often passed down through families and communities.
Sure.
And they really drive our priorities. You see them reflected in everyday life,
Absolutely.
the products we choose, the clothes we wear, even our food choices.
Yeah, where and how we choose to live, even.
Exactly.
It's all connected.
All connected.
Yeah, and a powerful example that comes through in your sources is the increasing societal value placed on protecting the environment.
Yes.
Looking after our natural world.
Yep.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, you can see a clear line between this widespread value and the significant changes we've seen in our supermarkets.
Right.
Consumers started actively demanding more sustainable options, and businesses had to respond to that signal.
Absolutely. Just think about the seafood counters.
Oh, yeah.
Your sources specifically mentioned Kohl's, Woolworths, IGA, and Aldi.
Mm-hmm.
They all felt that increasing customer pressure regarding the origins of their seafood and the methods used to catch it.
Right.
And here's where it gets really interesting. It wasn't just people vaguely saying they cared.
Yeah.
There was a tangible way for shoppers to actually identify more sustainable choices.
Exactly. That's where the Marine Stewardship Council, or MSC, plays a crucial role.
Right.
It's an independent, nonprofit organization
Okay.
that provides this well-respected certification for sustainable seafood.
Yeah.
And that blue MSC label that you see on packaging,
Yes.
it's not just a logo, it's a vital signal to consumers.
Yes, it is.
It provides an assurance that that product can be traced back to a fishery that adheres to, recognized and rigorous sustainability standards.
Right.
And this raises a really interesting point. Without that clear and trustworthy signal, would the consumer pressure have been as effective in driving change?
It's a great question.
It provided a focal point for action.
Absolutely. It's about trust and transparency. That label gives you that.
Yeah.
And the supermarkets reacted in different ways, didn't they?
They did.
Kohl's really leaned in, going for full MSC certification
Across the board.
across their fresh and packaged seafood,
Yeah.
making it a central part of their brand identity.
Yeah.
Woolworths, IGA, and Aldi, while maybe not going quite as comprehensively, still offer a significant range of MSC-certified frozen and canned options.
Right.
So it highlights how, a broad societal value translates into concrete business actions,
Yeah.
but with varying degrees of emphasis and implementation.
Absolutely. And the impact of societal values doesn't stop at just environmental concerns.
Right.
Your sources also highlight this growing expectation that businesses should contribute to the well-being of the communities in which they operate,
Yes.
and this extends beyond simply offering goods or services.
Right. It's about being a good corporate citizen.
Yeah, exactly. It boils down to businesses considering their impact beyond just profits.
Hmm.
Their role in the environment, the well-being of their communities, and the ethical treatment of stakeholders.
Right. So it's about having a positive impact beyond the bottom line.
Exactly.
And the example of AGL Energy's Energy for Life community program really illustrates
Oh,
this.
yeah, that's a good one.
They're not just providing an essential service,
Mm-hmm.
they're also actively giving back by supporting families who are struggling with their energy bills and involving their employees in charitable causes.
Right.
So it's about weaving that sense of positive contribution into the very fabric of their business operations.
I like that. Yeah, it's not just an add-on, it's part of who they are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what does this all tell us?
Well, I think it underscores that societal attitudes and values aren't just abstract concepts for businesses to acknowledge.
Right.
They are fundamental drivers of consumer behavior,
Yeah.
and they significantly shape public perception and trust.
Okay, so we've looked at attitudes and values. Let's shift gears a little bit and talk about trends.
Okay, sounds good.
So while attitudes and values provide that underlying framework,
Mm-hmm.
trends are the observable directions in which those attitudes or behaviors are moving.
Right.
They're the currents that are actively shaping the business landscape.
So we've seen how those deeply ingrained societal values shape the why behind consumer and employee behavior.
Yes.
Now let's look at the how things are actually changing the observable trends that businesses need to track to stay ahead of the curve.
Okay, so one really significant trend that your material highlights is the demographic shift we're seeing,
Right.
specifically the aging population here in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
We're observing a rising median age
Yeah.
and a growing proportion of older individuals within the community.
Right.
And this isn't just a set of numbers. This has very real implications for businesses across various sectors.
Absolutely.
So if your business is in the service industry, particularly one that caters to a younger demographic,
Right.
these aging population trends might signal a need to diversify your offers or even consider how your existing services could be adapted for an older clientele.
Absolutely.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture,
Yeah.
the aging population presents some clear opportunities.
Particularly in areas like healthcare services, aged care facilities, and the development of products specifically designed for older consumers.
Right.
However, it also brings potential challenges into the picture,
Such as?
such as potential shortages in the labor force as a larger segment of the population transitions into retirement.
Hmm.
And I think what's particularly insightful here is that businesses that proactively anticipate and plan for these demographic shifts are going to be much better positioned to navigate the future successfully.
It really underscores the importance of foresight, doesn't it?
Huge, yeah.
Being able to see these trends as they develop and then adapting your core business model and long-term strategies accordingly.
Absolutely.
Okay, so another major trend that you've highlighted is the increasing demand for family-friendly and flexible work environments.
Yeah, that's a big one.
And this really speaks to a significant shift in societal values surrounding work-life balance
Mm-hmm.
and a growing expectation around the role businesses play in supporting families.
There's a growing belief that businesses have a responsibility to support the family lives of their employees.
Yes.
And this translates into a greater consideration of things like, enhanced childcare provisions and the implementation of more flexible working hours.
Right, and of course the COVID-19 pandemic really acted as an accelerant for this particular trend, didn't it?
It did. It really did. Almost overnight, working from home became the norm for a huge number of people.
Yeah,
And it feels like that fundamental shift in how we work is here to stay.
right.
There's now a much more widespread expectation that businesses will continue to offer that flexibility, at least in some capacity, moving forward.
And that's a really interesting angle that, so much of what we've talked about has been driven by consumer demand, but this is coming from employees as well.
That's right. It's a two-way street. And,
Yeah.
and this isn't solely a matter of goodwill on the part of employers.
Right.
The Fair Work Act 2009 actually enshrines the right for certain employees to formally request flexible working arrangements as part of the National Employment Standards, or NES.
Okay. Okay.
And these specific categories often reflect societal recognition of caregiving responsibilities
Okay.
or vulnerabilities that can be significantly impacted by inflexible work arrangements, hence the legal provision.
I see.
So, for example, parents or guardians of young children, individuals with caring responsibilities, employees over the age of 55,
Uh-huh.
and those experiencing family violence all have the right to request flexible working arrangements.
And it's crucial to understand that these requests can only be refused on what are deemed reasonable business grounds.
Right?
And we're seeing a growing number of employees seeking greater flexibility in both where they work and the hours they work.
Yeah, absolutely.
This clearly reflects that broader societal value we discussed earlier, the increasing desire for a better integration between professional and personal life.
Right. It's all about finding that balance.
Yeah,
So, to bring together some of the key takeaways here,
yeah,
it's absolutely essential for businesses right from their initial planning stages to really stay attuned to these evolving social values, underlying beliefs, and observable trends.
hmm
They aren't static, and choosing to ignore them can lead to some pretty significant negative consequences down the line.
Right, and we've seen quite clearly how core social values and beliefs, such as the increasing emphasis on environmental protection and the rising expectation for businesses to make a positive contribution to their communities,
Hmm.
directly shape consumer behavior and the expectations of all their stakeholders.
And we've examined how key trends like the significant democratic shift towards an aging population and the rapid evolution of workplace culture with a strong demand for flexibility are
Yes.
creating both new opportunities and potential hurdles that businesses need to proactively anticipate and strategically address.
So when you put it all together, it becomes really clear that the long-term success of any business isn't solely dependent on the specific product or service it offers to the market.
Right.
It's deeply and inextricably linked to the broader societal context in which it operates.
Hmm.
Understanding these dynamic forces isn't just some abstract academic exercise.
No,
It's absolutely vital for effectively navigating the constantly evolving and often unpredictable business landscape.
couldn't agree more.
So this leads to a really interesting question for y'all to consider.
Okay, shoot.
Drawing on all of these examples we've discussed, what might be one emerging societal value or deeply held belief
Hmm.
that has the potential to significantly reshape an entire business sector that we haven't even touched upon yet in our conversation?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Really think about the potential ripple effects that even seemingly small shifts in how we think and what we prioritize could have on the world of business.
Yeah, some food for thought.
Okay, well, on that note, we're going to wrap up for today.
Great talking with you.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for joining us.
Likewise.
And to all of you listening, thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
We'll see you next time.
Until then.
Bye.